So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Stephen Fleming, who's owner at George and Joseph Cheesemongers. So, firstly, Stephen, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Sure, of course. Thanks for having us on, Chris. It's a privilege to be here. So
Really
yeah,
welcome.
as you say, I'm Stephen Fleming. I'm the owner and founder of George and Joseph Cheesemongers. We are based in Chapel Allerton in North Leeds. Been there for about 13 years now.
Oh, well,
Um, but I had the business was running sort of prior to having shops in Chapel Allerton. I ran through market stalls and fairs and things
right.
like that. Bit of a backstory there too. What do we do? We are retail cheesemongers. We sell and support and champion the best artisan produced cheese we can find,
Brilliant.
particularly UK producers, so small scale farmers who are making the most amazing cheese, the kind of things you're not likely to find in the supermarket.
Great.
And it's really about the business is really about bringing people together over an amazing cheese board. I sort of see us as being the facilitators of that. If you're going to have friends around or family over,
Wonderful.
you want something nice to put on the table that people are going to enjoy and talk about. So we do that. So as well as selling cheeses in the shop, we also do events. We do wedding celebrations. People want these big wedding cheese towers for their wedding
Yes.
receptions. There's an awful lot of we do a lot of educational work as well. We're part of the Academy of Cheese, so we do more formal teaching in cheese for those
Brilliant.
of you that want to get into it deeper,
Yes.
and all sorts of other things besides. We do subscription boxes online. We sell a lot through our website as well. Yeah, many spokes to the wheel. As it were, somebody told me when I started, don't make your living just selling bits of cheese over a counter, one piece at a time. You need lots of strands to the business.
Yes.
And that's turned out to be the case. So we've got
Brilliant.
maybe 7 or 8 different streams there.
Brilliant. That's what you highlighted there something I hadn't really thought about before, but it is quite obvious is that, um, you know, uh, yes, you can go to supermarket and there's a big range of cheeses there, but the tip I know from working, I mentioned before we started with, Judy Bell, Mrs. Bell, um, a lot of artisan cheeses won't ever be in a supermarket because of the difficulty of dealing and working with supermarkets. So if we really want to see the range and spread of amazing, especially UK cheeses, we need to come to people like you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, some of the producers will, even though they're being quite, very successful, they don't want to be in the
Yes,
supermarket, again, for various reasons.
yes.
And that kind of, that works for us as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so come and find out more about cheese and where you are. So Stephen, I'm really fascinated to know a little bit more about your background, how you got
Yeah.
into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it's probably the question. One of the questions I get asked the most actually is, why cheese and have I always
Yes.
been in it? And I had a previous career for 20 odd years in corporate IT. It was I did the straight line thing, my best subject at school from O levels, A levels. I did a degree in software engineering. I
Yep.
got a job as a junior programmer post university. And then fast forward 20 years later, I was the IT director for a law firm in Leeds. And that was, it was a really, really enjoyable career, really great jobs, really great people. But
Yep.
I hit sort of a point where I'd done 10 years in that job, 20 years of my career. I turned 40 around the same sort of time and I just started to have a few thoughts. I think a lot of people do about, well,
Yeah.
what might I have done differently if I had my time again or did something else? And I'd always been, enjoyed cheese and been a bit of a, cheese fan, but I have to give a lot of credit. There was a cheese club called Homage to Fromage that started up around this time. It was a conversation on Twitter between the guys that created it. And I went along to their first meeting, and there was about a dozen of us there. And we tasted through 7 or 8 different cheddars and talked about them and had some fun. And at the time, I was like, this is just going to be a nice hobby, a nice social thing to do to meet
Yes.
some new people. Um, Go fast forward 6 months or so, and they were getting like 120 people every month coming along to their cheese club.
Well,
And I started to have some conversations around, is there anywhere to buy good cheese in Leeds? And I knew
yes.
that there wasn't. And then you think, well, is there a reason for that? There's clearly, what I saw was the demand.
Yeah.
So I saw an opportunity to start doing. markets and things on a weekend. I then got a chance to take my sort of legal IT director skills and use those in a freelance way to do sort of IT director for hire stuff for
Got you.
small businesses. 2 days a week doing IT consultancy, 4 days a week doing cheese shop, and collapse in a heap on a Sunday, and then we go again. Um, 9 years ago, we moved to a bigger shop on the main high street in Chapel Allerton, and turnover doubled at that point. So
Right.
everything they say about location
Yep.
is true. We moved from being a well-kept secret down a little one-way side street to being next door to the greengrocers and the butchers and the fishmongers, and the numbers just jumped. So I was able to let the IT consultancy go at that point. But those all those technical skills came in and still come in really handy in terms of
Yes.
operating the business.
Amazing. What an amazing story.
Mm.
And what a great sort of change of direction at a point. I'd imagine I've probably done similar myself, but you get to those points and you wanted to take a very significant change of direction. And
Mhm.
how easy was it for you to I mean, just think about I always often talk about identity. Our identity, affects our success or our direction. How easy was it for you to take that step? I appreciate you took a step rather than a massive leap, but
Yeah.
you've got it sounds like quite a high powered, great job in Leeds to do something that you wouldn't necessarily know till you'd done it. It was going to be successful. How hard was that for you?
Do you know, at the time it didn't feel particularly difficult. Although I remember having conversations with a couple of other friends who'd done similar things, and we were all sort of saying, people keep telling us how brave we've been, and none of us felt like we were doing anything particularly brave. But
Yes.
actually, with hindsight, and there are various points where I looked at it and I think I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, there was one. What I guess the one point where it felt difficult was the weekend we decided to open the first shop. Um, we targeted a particular weekend because there's a Chapel Art and Arts Festival on
Yeah.
back in August, and that takes place on the street where our first shop was.
Brilliant.
So I'd said, right, we've got to be open for that weekend because there's 10,000 people there. This will
Yes.
be great. Um, the day we were due to open on the Friday, that was starting to kick into gear. I was also running an IT project, and one of the team had kind of gone AWOL and not produced a report they were supposed to have submitted.
Right.
And there was a stage for about 5 minutes where I had my boss from that project on the phone, kicking my backside of, where's this guy gone? What are you going to do about it? And I'm looking around at this cheese shop thinking, I've never actually done a cheese shop. I've no idea what I'm doing. For a split second, I was like, I can't do any of this.
Oh
I
goodness.
can't. I just had a moment of
Yeah.
lack of confidence. I can't do this. What am I doing with the cheese thing? What am I doing with the IT thing? Because this is all going wrong as well.
Yes.
Anyway, I took myself into the back room and just had a quiet word with myself, a strong word with myself, and took a deep breath. Went out, got the IT thing resolved, opened the shop, and never really sort of looked back in that regard. So I guess that was the only real moment of kind of doubt, if you like.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It
but
just no, so it's really interesting that you were sort of it wasn't it was doubt like in the moment of in effect launching, not shall we do it, shall we do it? It was just at that point and I'm sure you're not the only person that has those points where you go, oh my, have I done, is this the right thing for me?
yeah,
Um
yeah, and
and
they come up from time to time. They still do every now and again. You
yes.
get the moments late into the night and go, "Why am I doing this?" Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it's and it is such a change, but I think I think it's worth talking about because I work with with lots of business owners and leaders, and it is that challenge of self-doubt is one of the biggest challenges many people have. And a lot of people I interview them on these things, they talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, and you know,
yeah,
and I think it's such a common thing that it's worth highlighting that most people have that. It's actually the common thing. So if we're believing we're in any way sort of less able than other people around us, they're probably thinking the same of us. If that makes sense.
absolutely, yeah, and that was certainly that the that that was there for me, certainly in the first couple of years where I had a bit of an irrational fear that somebody would come into the shop and know more about cheese than I would and ask me
Yes.
loads of really awkward questions that I didn't know the answer to. Um, and over time, yeah, I mean, I realized that, I only need to have a little bit more knowledge than the average person coming in to be almost seen as as an expert in it. And
Yes.
time goes by, and I get my knowledge improves and stuff like that. And some people did come in who knew a lot about cheese, but by that point, I was actually feeling, comfortable enough to say, do you know, I don't know the answer to that
Brilliant.
question. Good point. And so yeah, that kind of that feeling of who am I to hold myself out as a cheesemonger or whatever. Yeah, it took a little bit of time, and also confidence around selling because
Yep.
I'd never had a sales job before.
Yes.
Suddenly, without thinking about it, I'd put myself into a sales, front of house selling role,
Yeah.
which felt, and again, the thing of confidence there about recommending
Yes.
products to customers. And it's something now I'm really comfortable with because it's something I'm really passionate about. But I coach my team on the counter. Some of those have never had sales jobs before, and encourage them to talk about the stuff they like the best because
Yes.
people, you can see their body language change when they start to describe something they've really enjoyed. It's easier to sell. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, that confidence through experience, I suppose, really.
Yes. I mean, I often think, you know, retail and hospitality are probably two of the most valuable industries to get in for any period of time because of the range of skills you learn, almost irrespective of the role that you specifically have. You'll
Yeah.
learn how to get on with customers. You'll learn, a bit more about how to understand your products and services, etc. And it's almost like a quick course in most things you might need to learn about a business.
Yeah, and I think about that's very true, and I think it's true about life skills as well because I've seen that we've had a lot of young sort of sixth formers and students through the door to help us out, and particularly like my eldest son who started with us when he was 13, kind of
Brilliant.
operating the till and making the tea. But seeing him and some of these other young kids, the confidence as they
Yes.
develop, I think everyone should do a job in customer service at
Yeah.
some stage because it teaches you loads of life skills.
Absolutely.
I've seen it many times over, as I say, and it's really, really satisfying and rewarding for me to see these shy, slightly unconfident, teenagers, sixth formers coming through. And when they head off, they leave us when they finish university and go off into the
Yeah.
wide world. They're really happy and really confident and very secure, which is really important.
Brilliant. Wonderful. So looking back over the longevity of the business, and you said how many years did you say you've been running?
We've had, yeah, 13 years with the shop, so in
The
a year or so prior to that. So yeah, about 14 years or so.
14 years. So
Yeah.
quite on. Would you say some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome over that period?
Um, I mean, the obvious biggest challenge was COVID and lockdown.
Yes.
When that landed, I think like everybody else, for there was a moment where you're like, well, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Um, and because as things stood, it was like, right, yeah, everything has to close, everyone has to stay at home. At the time, we didn't have much of an online offering. It was just you could buy. We had tickets for sale for our events on the website. That was about it, really.
Yes.
Um, so there was a challenge there to, I guess to keep calm and to think about it. And I remember seeing we have a WhatsApp group for the other businesses in Chapel Allerton, and everybody on that weekend the announcement, everyone was like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?"
Yes.
Then the following day, I looked at the group again, and everyone was going like, "Right, we're going to do this. We're going to do that."
Brilliant.
That create the that resourcefulness was there, and I'd done the same thing. I won't mind admitting, I kind of I had another little moment in the back of the shop, like, what the hell are we going to do here?
Yeah.
But then next morning, right, okay, we do this, we do that, and you get that kind of almost like tunnel vision clarity on right, this is what we need to do, and just taking action. So we took action. We looked at our top 20 best-selling cheeses from the past year, photographed them, put them on the website, started to take online orders, and
Brilliant.
it went. I know it was difficult for many businesses, but it went crazy for us.
Brilliant.
But yeah, but I saw other people who were like, oh well, we'll just sit tight and wait and see what happens.
Yes.
And we fall behind.
Yeah.
We didn't. We just made sure we kept going. So that was probably the biggest kind of the biggest challenge that's come through in time. I mean, there's loads of of little challenges of things that came along, like floods and break-ins and the ever-present challenge around about finances and cash flow and all that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, it's yeah, been a ride.
It, it's interesting in that moment, when businesses like yours, when you're just used, customers come to you, they can't do that anymore,
Mm,
and to choose in the moment to find a way forward, I think is quite, remarkable is not necessarily the right word, but it's just that resilience that we learn from having to do that, and not everybody did, as you said, some people took a step back, just said, look, we'll just wait and see.
yeah.
And as you said, unfortunately, some of those don't make it because they fall behind other people. And it's
Mhm.
it's it's interesting that ultimately that's a choice, isn't it? Of we will find a way forward,
Yeah,
um,
that's it.
e- even in most difficult times. And so alongside that, whether it's from some of those challenges you've identified or other areas, what would you say your biggest learnings are about growing a successful business, Stephen?
Um, the biggest realization I've had is it's about actually taking action rather than overthinking it.
Yeah,
Um, and also, and I think all business owners have this, you have millions of ideas. There are
yes,
so many things you could be doing. And where you're going to make the biggest difference isn't the shiny thing that's going to solve all. It's kind of doubling down on what your core is and what you do well. And at times I've maybe lost my way a bit on that. But coming back to, looking at most of our businesses through the shop,
yep,
looking at the range we have, looking at how much training we give our staff so that they are, better able to serve
yes,
customers, but ultimately, to be blunt, helps them take more money
yeah,
from them, which is, going to be the name of the game. So yeah, I think it's about actually taking action and focusing on the basics and the reason why you're doing it.
yeah,
Sticking to your principles rather than we could. There are so many things we could sell.
yes.
Um, and sometimes you think it's, that's maybe just from, oh, if we sell that, we'll sell loads of that. And it takes you away from, your kind of like your core and your purpose.
Absolutely. It reminds me our founder Brad. He in his offices he's got Brad's big board of ideas, and
Mhm.
basically he's always coming with ideas so similar to you, and his team just now go right, yeah, put it on the board.
Yeah.
So he puts it on the board, and if it lasts 2 weeks on the board, then they might take some action on it. And and he's said himself, he'll come in a week later and say, who the hell put that up there? What to get that one off?
Yeah.
And yeah, it is that. Yeah, it's so easy as you say, and it's part. I think it's part of the entrepreneurial makeup. In all honesty, that we're always looking for additional options, different additional ways forward, and having the balance between that and seeing things through before we move to the next thing is quite important.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, and the other thing I think the big learning is about not being the bottleneck.
Yes.
Which again, because most people, as I did, you start off and it's just you in the originally.
Yep.
So you do have to do everything and you have to solve all the problems. And I am a problem solver, so I love those challenges.
Yes.
But to get to the point where a few years ago somebody challenged me to take a Saturday off because I'd worked
Yep.
every Saturday for 7 years, and I didn't believe I could possibly take a day away, then things wouldn't fall to pieces. And I did it, and things didn't fall apart. And
Yep.
actually, they did better figures on that particular Saturday than we would have done anyway. So in a way, I was like, oh, okay, maybe
Interesting.
I'm not so pivotal to all of this.
Yes.
But since then, I've carried on unblocking, making sure I'm not blocking the team and that I'm not being
Yeah.
the bottleneck, which gives me the time to think about. And everyone talks about in the business, on the business, more chance to be actually on the business, working that way rather than, behind the counter for 6 days a week,
Yep.
which, yeah, has been transforms things for me, but also transforms things for the team as well because they feel empowered
Absolutely.
and it gives them more to get their teeth into.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So our definition of action coach of a true business is unlikely to be created day one, but a true business that we can maybe move towards is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners
Yeah.
specifically, and it's not. And I often put can in there because I'm quite happy to say, it can work without its owners. If we absolutely love what we do, and I would imagine you absolutely do, then the idea of not working it at all isn't necessarily a thing. But it gives us the option to do as you've identified. I think it's Brian Tracy talks about the best organisations are those where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
delegate everything else wherever you are in the organization. I think that's the key thing for business owners, especially to start with, is let's just focus on the stuff we're really good at and we really love. Let's get everything else delegated so we have the time to work on it and also maybe take some time away from it at the right point.
absolutely. Yeah. And that has been, that's made a big difference to me personally. It means I can have more time. One of the reasons I got into business was to have some flexibility around family and time and
Yes,
that kind of thing. And in
yes,
a way, it's like, yeah, I was able to go to all the kind of kids' school stuff, but then I found myself, oh no, I can't take more than a day or so away
yeah,
because everything's going to fall apart. Whereas now, we're just planning our family summer holiday for this year. We're going to take 4 weeks away in
brilliant,
Scandinavia, and I,
brilliant.
I get to keep in touch with the business with
Yes,
technology, but I know the team are, I've built something where the team are knowledgeable and strong enough to manage it day to day for that period of time without any hiccups.
brilliant. Brilliant, but you're absolutely right. Most businesses are started by individuals, and I think Michael Gerber in his book The E-Myth talks about you write a organizational chart for the original business, and it's one box that says me,
Yeah,
uh, and he says I think he says it is if you're lucky, it's two boxes that says me and you, and,
yeah.
but after that, but it's a really interesting thing, and I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, Stephen. So I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business, sport, or life in general. Who has had the biggest impacts on you?
That's a really good question. I mean, I found myself, particularly in lockdown, starting to listen. I was doing a lot of driving, I became almost a glorified delivery driver for a
Right?
time,
Yeah,
running
makes
around the
sense.
country picking up stock and delivering
Yeah,
orders, that kind of thing. Podcasts, I started to listen to an awful lot of podcasts there. Um, and gosh, there's almost too many to mention. I mean, I really resonated with people like James Clear, Atomic Habits
yep,
was really sort of pivotal for me. Those kind of things. Uh,
brilliant.
there's a men's coaching organization called TPM, the Powerful Man, who I've been working with as a client over the last few years, and
Oh,
they
brilliant.
work on business and personal
Yep,
transformation for married business owners.
interesting.
So that's kind of that that's given me some of the challenges. The challenge around take a Saturday off came from those guys.
Great.
There's some really good knowledge in there.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, and the sort of things I've listened to and taken things from it, all sorts of things from sort of business coaching and listening to, I really enjoy stuff like Diary of a CEO and stuff
Yep.
like that. But even through to the slightly more esoteric stuff like, the magic and the secret and manifestation type stuff.
Yes.
Um, I think it all plays a part.
Yeah.
It's not just about, straight down the line,
No.
business mentoring. There's a wide range of stuff.
And I think it's like each individual, we all take the things that are most relevant to us. And I
Yeah.
think being able to sort of pick that sort of range of things is really valuable. And from any of those podcasts or any of those people you mentioned, any favorite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using or that you think about on a regular basis?
I think the main one is about there's a couple of kind of things. One is around just taking action. One of,
Yep.
one of the coaches would say to me, in the moment of insight, take massive action.
Yep.
And especially around reading and listening and stuff. It's like, everyone can listen to endless podcasts and go, yeah, that was great. Oh, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
Next podcast. To actually stop and go, oh, okay, I'm going to think about those ideas or that learning, and I'm going to implement something because it really, really has really hit something. So there's something about taking action, which for me as a chronic overthinker and procrastinator, that you realize that you can compress time.
Yes.
What we think we could do in 10 years, we could probably do in five. If you actually sort of just crack on with things. So
Yes.
that's a real big thing for me, I would say.
It, it makes perfect sense. I think there's a Japanese proverb that's something like, and forgive me if I get this wrong, but it's something like, uh, knowledge without action is but a daydream,
Yeah.
but action without knowledge is a nightmare.
Hmm.
And I think that's really relevant. It's taking action, but make sure we know, we've got an idea where we're headed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And yeah, but I think the biggest challenge many of us have, and we talked about COVID being one of those times, is let's just do something,
Yeah.
and let's just find a way because there will be a way.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's something about I can't remember, was it Microsoft or Meta or somewhere where they had this sort of thing of move fast and break stuff.
yes,
That failing fast thing where you're like, okay, let's do something.
yeah,
And I think again, it's about perfectionism and not falling into it of
yeah,
like, let's do this and see if it works. And it might not be perfect, but we can
yes,
always refine it. And if it doesn't work, at least we've tried it rather
yep,
than and again, this is something what I've found personally is I can fall into a habit of trying to get something so good before I'll launch it or whatever. But actually to go, no, it's okay.
yep,
Um, and I think the thing around there's something about accountability, having other people that you and I think I can't remember who was it said to me a while ago was like if you got an idea or something you want to do, tell people that you're going to do it
yeah,
because then they'll
absolutely,
hold you accountable for it. Oh, well, you're going to do that. Well, why has that not happened? Rather than
absolutely,
keeping it to yourself. So there's
yep,
something about, and that ties into putting stuff out there
yes,
into the universe or whatever you want to call it, if you want to go that way inclined.
I
But
agree.
yeah, there's something about having a vision for what you want and where you want to go, and then telling people and
Yes.
acting as if you're already there.
Yep. And and a big part of that, from my perspective, is we're actually telling our subconscious. It's telling other people. It's telling the universe. It's also telling our
Yeah.
subconscious, which will act on it if we tell it. If
Yes.
thinking
Yeah.
it is different, thinking it isn't. My belief is there's no direct connection between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind this way in thought, but in speech it goes in our ears and therefore goes through the bit the subconscious part of our brain at the back.
Yeah.
So it's really important we say it out loud and we talk about what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of learning there. And I'm keen to know what you think you would say you'd learnt about yourself throughout your journey so far, Stephen.
Um, that's a great question. What have I learned about myself? I think what I've learned is there's a couple of things there. One is if I ask for something, I quite often get it. Rather than again, it's overcoming
Yeah,
those negative voices of like, oh
bang
no, I
on.
couldn't be asked to do this. There's been a number of occasions where I've actually, put it out there and said, I'd like to do this, and someone's gone, yeah, of course you can. Um, and so that's a big thing there. I think there's a lot. I've learned a lot about self-belief and about that I
Great.
can do more than I maybe imagined I could do.
Yes.
Um, and to be open to having conversations and seeing where they lead. They might not lead anywhere, but when I look at what I'm doing now compared to what I was doing 10, 12 years ago when we started, and it was
Yes.
just me in a shop, and there was something great about it just being me.
Yep.
That organizational chart with me, in a
Yes.
way, that was quite freeing for a time because you didn't
Yep.
have to worry about managing people or that kind of thing. But to now, where the things I'm doing now, and a lot of them are things that I've asked to do, like the teaching, I do a lot of sort of cheese judging and public speaking and stuff. They're things that I've just stood up and said, I'd like to do this, please.
Brilliant.
And looking around, and go, who do I talk to make this happen? And yeah, but things come your way. Um,
I
that's probably the biggest thing, having that self-belief.
love
Uh,
it.
really.
Love it. No, absolutely love it. It brings to mind. I had a colleague that in a different business, and he did a sporting lunch every year in York,
Mhm.
and one of the years he had two of my heroes, Welsh rugby players, as sponsors. And the night before this big dinner, they have a little dinner with the sponsors, and just so there's like only 15 of them.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, Mark, I know it's not supposed to, and it's not right, but is there any chance I could get on that dinner because you've got two of my heroes? And I said these things that it was really interesting because I said specifically this. I said, "No, I know it's a bit cheeky, but if you don't ask, the answer's always no."
Absolutely.
And that
Yeah.
what was interesting, that tickled him so much. He said it was only because I said, primarily because I said that, he not just invited me to the dinner, he sat me between my two heroes, and and it was just like just this whole thing. I just went, blimey, yeah, I never thought of it like that. So that's
Yeah.
been my learnings for
Yeah.
my kids,
Yeah.
as
I
they
mean, they
say.
say that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And
Um,
that doesn't mean it's always easy to do that, but
no.
it's something I get to remind myself about. And yeah, it helps.
I think it's also about having not the right words because to say courageous, but it's almost the courage to do it, isn't it? It's just saying
Yeah,
I'm going to say this. I don't know what that means. I don't know where that's going to take me, but I just think it's something I should at least try. And I think that's a good yeah, a good recipe
yeah.
for a successful life, maybe. Hopefully, a successful business too.
I think so. Yeah, and I think sometimes the fear of having a conversation is always greater than the actual conversation itself.
Yeah,
So again, that thing of, oh, I'm scared to ask for something. Once you've asked, kind of like, well, what's the worst? The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no.
absolutely,
Kind of like, at least you'll know, and then move on. So what? But you build it
absolutely.
up, you build it up and build it up. So, we're meaning making creatures.
Absolutely. A friend of mine works in a lot of sales, and one of his phrases, which we'll have got from somewhere else, but what is it? Some say yes, some say no. So what? Move on.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? And it's okay.
Mhm.
Um, and looking towards the future, then, Stephen, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Yeah. So I mean, the future is really about really building on what we have. We're continuing to evolve the shop and the range of cheeses and other products we sell there. Um, to really keep on going with the excellent job we're doing there. The online side of the business is something I'm focusing on growing this year as well, because I think
Yeah.
there's a bigger opportunity there
Yes.
as well. And just to kind of come for me to become more of have more build more of a sort of personal brand around expertise and
Yeah.
public speaking, which, as I say, it's something a couple of years ago said, yeah, I want to do this.
Brilliant.
And looking back, it's 2 years on. I say, yeah, this is happening. So I'd love at some point to do another shop somewhere else. I think we could
Great.
take what we've got in Leeds and put it in another town somewhere. Um, I've got a very good idea about the kind of makeup of the area that would need to
Yes.
work. So yeah, that'd be really amazing to do that too. Challenges, I mean, the challenges we've had over the past year or so continue around things like cost of living and energy, prices, that kind of thing, which not only
Yes.
affect us in terms of our own power bills, but the producers. You
Of
need
course.
a lot of energy to produce fertilizers and to
Of
turn
course.
milk into cheese. So there's a lot of challenge around price.
Yeah.
And so we are conscious that at times we're kind of stuck in the middle because, the goods we're buying are getting more expensive. Our customers have got less disposable income than they maybe had a few years ago. I mean, that was one of the things with lockdown. Everyone's sitting at home with most of their
Yeah.
disposable income and not much to spend it on.
No.
And we go, yeah, buy cheese.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That worked really well. So I mean, yeah, I think that's always going to be the challenge is around juggling costs and pricing.
Yes.
However, I do think in the last couple of years as well, there's been a move. People continue to want to know more about their food and where it
Yeah.
comes from and how it's made, the provenance. Um, and that brings more people to our doors
Brilliant.
because you don't get that in the supermarkets. You pick up a block of cheese,
No.
you don't do anything about it.
No.
It doesn't mean it's bad,
I
but it's
completely get that.
not what people are looking for.
I think when it's something that is, yeah, I mean, having someone that can help you a little bit make those decisions. Otherwise, it's just,
Yeah,
what color is it? It's like, it's like me buying wine sometime, which is the prettiest label sort of thing. It's like that's not,
yeah, yeah. I'm
it's
guilty of that at times as well, and it's something that I'm always very mindful of. People coming into our shop is a bit like going into a fancy wine shop or somewhere. It's like you maybe don't recognize very much of the
no,
labels, the packaging, and or the cheeses we've got. They won't maybe have seen them, and that we try to create an atmosphere where we're not
yes,
judgmental or snobby. That's really welcoming and friendly, and people feel comfortable to ask what they
yes,
might think is a daft question. But there aren't any daft questions. It's just
no,
like we want to help people to discover
yes.
um, something that they've not had before because it tastes amazing.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially as you say in a shop like yours, is just making people feel comfortable that
Yeah,
it's okay not to know, and that's why you're there, really, isn't it? If you knew,
absolutely.
there
Yeah.
might be a different way of getting hold of the particular cheeses you wanted. But if you don't know, that's exactly why they need to come and come in and talk to you and just have a
Absolutely.
conversation about yeah what their taste buds would hold.
Yeah, and when we have a responsibility as well to represent and to help support the makers of these cheeses that we do sell, because we want them to do better and sell more and have to make more, and
Yeah,
and that's really important to me as well, that that the cheese scene in the UK continues to flourish.
yeah,
Um,
brilliant. Brilliant. And looking back over your time, if you started the business again, is there anything significant you do differently, do you think, Stephen?
um, I don't think significantly, no. I mean, when I look at, particularly with our shop, I look around it and I design the whole thing myself. I'm not a designer, but people come in and say, oh, this is a lovely feel. It's beautifully designed like that. I'm like, oh, thank you. But there are many things where, the biggest thing would be in there is I would put everything on wheels, because all the counters and everything
Right.
they're all fixed, and so stuff doesn't move very easily.
Yes,
And at times we're like, well, if only the layout was different, or if only we could change it around for Christmas when it's really, really busy.
brilliant.
And I just thought to myself, do you know what? If we'd put everything on wheels,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
just just
Love
rearrange
it.
it as per, that's probably. I mean, there are many, many little things I would
Yeah,
do, um, but broadly, I'm not sure there's much more I would do differently. Right.
brilliant. Brilliant. And final question, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
I would say don't be pulled down. I've been having this conversation with my second eldest, who's actually 18 at the moment.
Brilliant.
Don't feel you've got to go down a narrow track of school, university job.
Brilliant.
There's a lot of pressure when you're 18 to make those decisions, and it's okay to change your mind, or it's
Yeah.
okay to do something different. Um,
I
you
think
know,
it's very sound advice. I'm to the similar advice with my youngest daughter, who's 19,
mhm.
who's travelling at the moment in Hong Kong as we speak. And I don't know if you're familiar with a guy called Simon Squibb, but if you search him up, I'll try and send you some information on him. But he very much talks about how, the educational system is designed for a certain purpose, and it's not necessarily the purpose that we would want for ourselves or our kids.
No, no, that's right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
and and
really.
he talks a lot about sort of interest-led learning. He just, he homeschools his son, and he just says, what's on your mind at the moment, son? And his son will say, well, I saw a program about dinosaurs last night, and it's all let's
Yeah.
search up dinosaurs. This is a much younger son, but it's just like, where does the interest go, and allow things to flow a little bit more. Which is, to be fair to a school as an establishment, can't do for 30 kids in a class, but we can
No,
do
that's
in
right.
different ways for ourselves. So,
Yeah, indeed, and I think to be aware of that and not be afraid to do something that's a bit different.
yes,
And it's about, yeah, it sounds a bit naff, the sort of follow your passion thing, but
I,
I really
not at all.
feel, I still really enjoy technology, um,
Yes.
but I feel that what I do now brings me so much more joy.
Yeah.
And I can't describe it, and it's not a skill necessarily or something you could learn. It's that thing of sharing with people and
Yes.
seeing the look on someone's face when they try something incredible. And that was the first time I sold cheese. I got that, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then they give you money for stuff, which was secondary, but it's kind of there.
I
Uh,
can imagine.
and it's that joy, I suppose, do things that are going to give you that kind of feeling
Yes.
of joy. I
Love it.
made much more money in my tea career than I've done in cheese, but I'm infinitely happier.
Yeah.
And it's far more rewarding, and it connects me with more people. So yeah,
Love
do
it.
that.
Absolutely love that. And that's been fascinating. A really, really fascinating conversation, Stephen. I thank you so much for your
No
time.
problem.
And for anyone anyone watching is interested in contacting you or visiting the Cheesemongers, what's the best way to make contact or get in touch? Or
Yeah, sure. So I mean, if they can search us up online. It's George and Joseph. That with George and Joseph on social media. Website is georgeandjoseph.co.uk. We are in Chapel Allerton, North Leeds, 140 Harrogate Road. If you want to come down and have the full experience in person, which is the best way to experience it for sure.
well, I will be. I'm sure
Great.
I will be deviating. I come down Scottle Road on a regular basis, so I'll be diverting down
Excellent stuff. Down Harriet
past
Road
you.
instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be popping in soon.
Lovely.
Stephen, it's been fascinating to talk to you today. I really do appreciate your time. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up again in another 6 to 12 months and just see. Because sorry, I was going to say about the second, looking at a second shop. One of the ways we found as a business coaching organisation, one of the best ways of creating a business that works without you is getting a second shop because you can't run two at the same. You can't
Yeah.
be in two at the same time if that makes sense. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I fully enough, I trained to do this with actually coach 20, whatever it was, nearly 22 years ago. And one of my co-trainees at the time was the next action coach client whose coach had got him to, he was a butcher, but he bought a second shop. And
Mhm.
that had helped him extract himself. That process had helped him extract himself primarily from the business on a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah.
that'd be interesting to see the learnings of going through that process as and when that happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Be interesting to see when it does. Yeah.
absolutely. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks, Chris. Been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.